Okay. So, yeah. So hi, everyone. This is Barbara Phillips with Nurse Practitioner Business Owner, and I have with me today Melanie Balestra, who is a nurse practitioner and attorney in the state of California, and we're going to be talking about independent contractors and the laws that are taking effect not only in California, but in other states. And so I'm going to let Melanie introduce herself.
Okay. I have my own law offices in California. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner. I continue to practice as one for at least 8 hours a week. I am counsel for the California Association of Nurse Practitioner. And my business focuses a lot on nurse practitioners, mainly and other healthcare providers.
Right. And I do understand, because I've referred people to you, that you also help them set up their businesses in California.
Yes. California is a very difficult state to set up a business because we don't have full practice authority. And so there are ways that you can have your, quote, own business, not actually your own, but there are, ways around so that you can practice relatively, not independently, but in a business that is productive for you.
Yes, yes. It seems like every state has hoops to jump through regarding that. But today we're here to talk about AB 5, which is the ruling that went into effect in California regarding independent contractors. And so maybe for people who don't understand what that is, you can start off by telling us just what is AB 5?
Okay, AB 5, it was called the ABC rule. It actually came into being in 2018. There was a case with truck drivers that went to the California Supreme Court. And they determined that truck drivers could not be independent contractors. And so what the ABCs mean is that the person is free from control and direction of hiring entity. Okay, here's the killer. The second B is the killer. The person performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business.
Right.
And then C, the person is customarily engaged in an independently established trade, occupation, or business. Now, one of the things that's very disconcerting is that physicians are excluded from this. Okay? Is right. So obviously we weren't in the ball game, because once the Supreme Court made the decision, then it went, for more a clearer legislative bill. And like lawyers are exempt, physicians are exempt. The truck drivers actually sued again, and now the truck drivers are exempt. What we don't have helping us is the California Nurses Association, which is the largest. It's not, to me, it's a little bit of a misrepresentation, because people assume it's the Association for all the nurses in California. It's the biggest nursing union in California. And they have been the ones that have been against full practice authority for us. And they are also against AB 5 having RNs exempt, because, it makes sense for the union. If you can be an independent contractor, then you're not a member of the union.
Right. So CNA, the California Nurses Association, isn't the state association for the American Nurses Association.
No, that's the American Nurses Association, California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Wow.
That's even worse than I thought.
W. Yes.
So, when we talk about this, so basically, getting back to the ABC, this means that we as nurses, we as nurse practitioners cannot go to work in a healthcare environment where that's their usual business and this is our usual business.
Correct. And even if that's for 2 hours a week.
Right.
You still have to be a W-2 employee. And they have also applied it to like nursing corporations, because one way of having your own business was to have your own nursing corporation,
right,
have a contract with a medical corporation to provide collaborating physician services. And that way you could work for multiple physicians or facilities or one. But it is saying this includes now corporation entities. So if your corporation provides nurse practitioner services to a facility, then that it can't be, because they're considering the nursing corporation as an independent contractor also. And that was not in the original law. That is something somebody put in.
Which is what usually happens with a lot of these bills. But this then, so what happens to these independent contractors who work locums and they'll work for one of the locums companies? Are they now supposed to be employees of the locums?
Well, this hasn't been defined actually yet, because now the locums themselves don't practice medicine. They just provide the people that do. But this hasn't been flushed out, and I wonder too with the nursing registries, because the nursing registries do that. So there's quite a few cases against the bill right now. I think Uber and Lyft have a case against them.
Right.
I know some healthcare provider associations were looking to get together to have, a case against the bill. But it just seems to me like, nurse practitioners should be in the same category as physicians.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, in so much of the work that we do, but we also know that there's a lot of backlash around that we'll leave behind right now. So then myself as a, if I had my own practice in California or in any state for that matter, and I wanted to say, bring somebody in while I'm on vacation, it doesn't sound like I'd really be able to even do that, let alone have somebody who works as an independent contractor, which gets into that whole other thing of the IRS definition.
Yes, and the IRS definition is much more lax than the California.
Pretty gray.
But the California Labor Board, having represented people before the California Labor Board and IRS for these kinds of things, California Labor Board is much more strict.
Right.
Than the IRS.
Right. And I think it's important for people to understand that in any state, whichever is the more strict is the one you need to follow, whether it's a state organization or a federal organization. So what can nurse practitioners do right now in California, and what can businesses do right now in California? Do we just have to hire people to be our employees, which costs, of course, the business more money and less money to the independent contractor, and so
because
forth.
What it is, it's going to be driving a lot of small businesses out of business.
Yeah.
Which is strange, because we are a liberal state and we're supposed to support small businesses. But this is very destructive, because people are already having problems and having to close down businesses. The only solution I can see is getting together for another class action suit to go against the bill and see if that, because like I said, the truck drivers have won. And, how did the physicians, why are physicians exempt? Why are attorneys exempt? They have a lot more money than nurse practitioners do. But that, and I'm hoping that our association, California Association of Nurse Practitioners, will get behind that also and see what they can do. And we're working on the 8B 890 right now, which is full practice authority, which we don't know what's happening with that. So, and we won't go into that. It's very difficult right now. Now, if you are just recently a psych nurse MP, okay, that has a practice. Now, they called and they asked me, can I have, the social worker and MFT work for me as an independent contractor, which they could, because they provide a different service. than the psych NP.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the ones that are probably able to do the most around this, but so many other practices, have other NPs working with them that are independent contractors. And in California, a lot of NPs will have multiple jobs,
Yes.
and that is just putting a kibosh on everything.
Right.
Because
And
it's got to be, and because this way too, if you don't work full time for somebody, then you're not going to get benefits. You're not going to get the 401k plan. You're not going to get the insurances. You're not going to do all that. So here, they've got the W-2s and all the money is being taken out and they're not getting any benefits.
right.
Whereas before they could, get their own insurances. And if they formed a corporation, they could, have their own. Yeah. So it's killing them. I mean, it really is, from aspects of benefits and income. And the facilities and the doctors aren't happy about it either.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of physician offices will utilize somebody as an independent contractor. And not only that, I'm thinking about CRNAs, I'm thinking about midwives.
Oh, it's killing CRNAs because the CRNAs are all independent contractors.
Right, that's how they work.
Yes. So that's why the CRNAs, all the advanced nursing associations need to get together and to fight this law for the advanced nurse practitioner or advanced nurses, because it's just really killing a lot of them.
And are they getting together? Have they started to come together?
I have heard rumors that yes, they are trying to get together to do something.
Okay.
So
that's one of our downfalls in nursing.
I know exactly. And that's why if California had the support of the California Nurses Association with a lot of stuff, we could go a lot further, but we don't. And the media keeps blaming the medical association, but the medical association is against, or not full practice in almost all states. So the difference is that, and I had talked to somebody from the National Council State Boards of Nursing, and they had said that every state that gets full practice authority has the support of the union, and California does not.
Okay, we can. That's deep.
Another.
We can go in. So, yes. When we look, like I was saying, I think before we started here, I think I counted up about 17 states that have the ABC rules. But I don't know that any of them is having the impact that California is having. However, well, even to back up a minute, my understanding is this whole thing in all these states came to be one, because states are losing revenue from employment taxes. And do you in your crystal ball see this kind of law going to other states to enact it to the degree that California has done?
I don't think they're going to enact it to the degree that California has. I mean, we tend to go overboard a lot. Because the other thing I've suggested, okay, so you have your own corporation or LLC or whatever, so you pay yourself with a W-2. You do all of that. So the state still gets their money, but then you're able to get your own benefits and tax write-off.
Right.
And I think that's a great solution.
Right.
But again, we've got to argue this with the state.
Okay.
Because you're right, it's all about money. That is what's driving it. It's simply money. And so, that they haven't started auditing yet that I know of, but they are going to start auditing. And I guess what they're going to start doing is just start auditing corporations to see, who's paying W-2s and that kind of thing. I think you might be at a little less risk if you do pay yourself with the W-2, but I can't say that that'll exonerate you. Now, here's the biggest problem is the fine does not go against you, the MP. It goes against your employer, and it's $10,000 per person.
So that's
So it's
really going to have some practice say, oh no, we're not going to do that.
exactly. That's why I mean, I've talked to, I don't know how many practices, and that's the thing, you know, you have 4 independent contractors, that's $40,000 right there.
Right.
So that, but it doesn't affect the MP directly. You're not the one that's going to be paying it. It's going to be the employer who did not hire you as a W-2.
So when we talk about NPs, we talk about, it would be the same thing if I was to try and hire a nurse for my practice, but would it also be the same thing if I was trying to hire, say, an MA in my practice as an independent contractor? And I shouldn't use the word hire because that's the wrong term when we're talking about independent contractors. But if I, you know, used okay, thank you. If I engaged a medical assistant in my practice and I wanted to do it as an independent contractor because that person also had some kind of a business where she or he was hiring themselves out to provide these same services, it's still healthcare. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So it still would be a no-go.
Yeah, the only thing you could do, like you could have an accountant, someone that does accounting as an independent contractor because they're not providing health services.
Right, or the plumber,
you know, that
or
kind
the electrician.
yeah.
What can nurse practitioners do right now, if anything?
All they can do is, I would say, you know, support like their state organization, CANP, and like we have a conference coming up in a few weeks. And I have encouraged, I just write a short little blurb for our, what's called the connection letter, encouraging everyone to come to the conference, and our lobbyists will be speaking at that conference, and to really start asking the lobbyist questions. Why haven't we approached this? What are we going to do about it? And to really get after the organization, to show the organization you're concerned about this and you want to do something about this. Because then CAMP as an organization, you know, is able to get somebody hopefully to support the bill. And, you know, that way, you know, we might be able to get a bill in, or work with another, you know, other organizations such as the CRNAs organization.
Right.
And if we get a few organizations together for the bill, then we, you know, we've got the support and can go forward with it.
So
we have to work together.
Yeah, well, we've always needed to work together.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like there's a quick solution for this.
No.
Okay. And so for nurse practitioners in other states, it sounds like the best, you know, one recommendation for outside of California would be make sure that you're incorporated, make sure that you've developed it as an S Corp so that you're paying yourself as a W-2 employee.
W-2.
And keep an eye on your laws.
Be aware of the laws in your states. Know the laws of your state and know if any changes are coming up.
Thank you so much.
And then you can be prepared, because how did this sneak through? I mean, this is not the way it started when the Supreme Court said, okay, you know, we're going to change things. And then the exemptions came along. And so somebody approached the legislature about the exemption.
You know, it seems to me, and of course, I'm just kind of wondering, you know, with a lot of bills and a lot of things that get signed, it seems like there's always some last minute stuff that gets added that nobody's ever discussed, and then the thing is signed.
Right.
And that may probably, you know, as someone who, I grew up in San Francisco, so I know California, or it feels like I used to know California. I see some things happening now that it's like, oh, that's not the California I grew up in. But, you know, I was really sorry to see this happen. It's bad enough that there's not full practice, and that there's the most unusual practice act, if you can even call it that, in California. So for nurse practitioners, because
Yes.
there's not an official practice act from what I understand.
No, there isn't. We are not separated from RNs. We all practice under standardized protocols. Most states have, you know, the RNs, and then the MPs have a
Correct.
separate. We do not in California, and they've not been willing to change that. So it's kind of like California used to be the leader, and now we're going backwards.
Right.
Well,
Well,
yeah, because I started out here in California too.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So any, I'm just looking at my questions here, and I think we've answered most of them. Is there anything else that NPs or any advanced practice nurse, any RN should be aware of? Any last words?
just to be, you know, really careful. And when you're talking to an attorney about something, to any of this legislature, anything, make sure that you're talking to somebody that understands advanced practice nurses, because that is the biggest thing that I run into, especially with malpractice cases and that kind of thing. They judge so much by the physician and not the advanced practice nurse. And it's different law, it's totally different. So just always know, and the American Association of Nurse Attorneys, you can find attorneys through them, and they're RNs or MPs, and they know, you know, what the law is in your state if you have questions about the law and that kind of thing. Because I get so many cases that are messed up because, you know, they weren't given the right information. But not to give up, and to stay strong, and to keep fighting, because eventually something will turn, I do believe. It's gonna take a little bit more fighting in California.
Well, I think we need to do a lot more fighting across the country, actually. But so I thank you so much for your time. If people need to get a hold of you, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
The best way is my email, and that is Balestra healthlaw@gmail.com.
Okay.
And they're welcome at any time, to email me with questions, because I am doing as much as I can to support MPs all over the country, because it just blinds me. I always say I'm a nurse practitioner who happens to be an attorney.
Right.
And that's the way I feel.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking time with me today, and I'll make sure that the email and everything else, your contact information, is underneath the video.
Okay, and thank you so much, Barbara, for bringing this up, because it is going to be affecting so many MPs and so many other states, and if they can keep other states from going to the extremes that California did, it'd be so much better.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Okay. Have a great day.